Today we're doing Module 5, Lesson 10. The objective is to compare unit fractions by reasoning about their size using fraction strips. The materials needed for today are your online whiteboard or your whiteboard dry erase marker and dry eraser. And you'll also want your fraction strips out to help you reference with the problems. The teaching style we're going to follow is where I do it, we do it together, and then you do it on your own. First up, I have an example here. It says compare the fractions, circle less than or greater than. Okay, so first let's look at our less than and greater than. Less than would mean it is smaller. Greater than would mean it is bigger. Okay, so we have two fractions, 1/2, which is 1/2, and I'm just going to write that over to the side. Right, 1/2. And then over here, we have another fraction, 1/4, which is 1/4. Okay, so we have to figure out, is 1/2 smaller than or bigger than 1/4? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shade in 1/2. You can see I have my fraction strips here. If you have your fraction strips in front of you, you can get out your half and your fourths and lay them on top of each other like this. And then you can kind of see where the lines line up. So if I shade in 1/2, right, one out of the two pieces, I have that much. Now if I shaded 1/4, which is one out of the four pieces, I have this much. You can see that the 1/2 piece takes up more space or is bigger than the 1/4 piece. So I would say that 1/2 is greater than 1/4. Okay, and in case you do not have your fraction strips with you, I am going to show you another way that you can do this with the virtual manipulatives. So I've also attached the virtual manipulatives to your assignment today. So we could come over here and take out a 1/2 piece, and then we could take out a 1/4 piece and line them up right next to each other. And we can kind of see the same thing, that the 1/2 piece is bigger than the 1/4 piece. Okay? Let's go ahead and have you do an example with me. Compare the fractions, circle less than or greater than. So if you have your fraction strips with you, you can get them out right now. You want your thirds and your halves. Okay, because we are going to be comparing 1/3 to 1/2. And figure out, is 1/3 smaller than or bigger than 1/2? If you have your fraction strips in front of you, you can just look at them. If you don't have them, I want you to take a second and draw these two fraction strips. Even if you do have your fraction strips, if you want to practice shading, you can draw these as well on your whiteboard. And then once you have them drawn, we are going to practice shading them and see which piece is bigger. Okay, so first on our fraction strip that's broken into 3 pieces, 1, 2, 3, or thirds, we're going to shade one piece to represent 1/3 or 1 out of the 3 pieces. Go ahead and shade the 1/3 on yours. And then we're going to shade 1/2. So on our fraction strip that has 2 pieces, we're going to shade 1 out of the 2, or 1/2. I want you to think in your head, is 1/3, is this piece on top smaller than or bigger than 1/2? Think of that answer in your head. Then I want you to do a thumbs down if you think it is less than or smaller, and a thumbs up if you think the 1/3 is bigger or greater than. So we should have been doing a thumbs down. The 1/3 piece is less than or smaller than the 1/2. So we would circle less than. Because you can see that the 1/3 piece only comes to about here on the 1/2 piece. So the 1/2 piece is bigger. Okay, so we know that the 1/3, because we're starting with 1/3, is less than or smaller than 1/2. Okay, so you have to go in order. All right, go ahead and erase your whiteboards. While you're erasing, I'm going to show you what that would look like with the virtual manipulatives. We would take our 1/3 and our 1/2, and we can see the same thing, that the 1/3 piece is smaller than the 1/2. Okay, I'm going to give you just a moment to draw these 2 fraction strips on your whiteboard. One is broken into thirds or 3 pieces, and one is broken into sixths or 6 pieces. So take a moment, write that on your whiteboard. And I'm just going to label our fractions in unit form. 1/3 and 1/6. Okay, so now you should have your fraction strip broken into thirds and your fraction strip broken into sixths. First, let's make 1/3, which is 1 out of the 3 pieces, and we're going to shade that in. Next is 1/6, so we're going to shade 1 out of the 6 pieces. And now we just need to compare them. We can see that this 1/3 piece is longer or takes up more space, okay? The 1/3 is bigger than the 1/6, so that means 1/3 Go ahead and do thumbs up if you think it is greater than, thumbs down if you think it is less than. Should have seen thumbs up. 1/3 is greater than 1/6. So something to pay attention to that you might be noticing is that the more pieces you break the fraction strip up into, the smaller each piece gets. So when this bottom number is bigger, that means your pieces are actually going to be smaller because you have to make more of them. Okay, so when we only have to make 3 pieces, our 3 pieces are a little bit bigger because we only have to make 3 of them. But when we are breaking it into 6 pieces, our pieces are smaller because we have to make more of them. Okay, so just something to keep in mind for as we keep learning about fractions, about what changing that bottom number does to our size of our pieces. Okay, go ahead and erase your whiteboard. And let's take a look at what we're doing today. You have a Cami homework. You're only doing number 2, okay? So you are going to be comparing fractions. All right, so I know they look kind of tightly spaced together, but if we're looking at A, you're comparing 1/2 and 1/3, and it's asking is 1/2 greater than or less than 1/3. Now remember, if you have your own fraction strips, it's easier to just lay them out and look at each of the 1 pieces to figure it out. If you do not have your fraction strips, then you're going to want to open up the virtual manipulatives that I attached to today's assignment. And then you can be pulling those out just like I've showed you to compare the fractions. Go ahead and begin.